Hello, everybody. Welcome to Standard Definition here on Bossfish Network. I'm your host. This is episode then, Latin Excited ADV. And joining me is the one, the only, Bossman himself, Mr. Corey Dirrig.
Hello. We're doing a lot of things together now, and it's exciting.
Yes. We've been doing a lot of recording for you, and I'm excited to have this opportunity to record with you. Every time we get together, we record, I get excited.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But
it's, I mean, the week we're recording this, I don't even know when this is going up, but we're kind of finally getting into that rhythm that we originally wanted to get in with Pow Block all those years ago, right? Because we have Pow Block going strong, we have expansion pass hitting its stride, and now we're doing retro Nintendo stuff for standard def. So we're like, in that kind of sweet spot of really nailing what we wanted to do originally, like 5 years ago, and now we're just, it's better late than never, I guess.
yes.
We have our friends along for the ride too, if they want, I guess.
Yes. Well, everybody, as you can see, this episode, we're going to be covering the Nintendo Entertainment System.
I was trying to make you laugh, and you didn't budge.
You want to know why I have my eyes closed? So. Okay, I didn't expect that.
Nailed it.
Yes. And right, we are covering the Nintendo Entertainment System, and there are some things about the system that I didn't know, but it really has a big history back in the day. And we're going to kind of talk about when we got our systems, some of our memories, some of the games that we loved and that we played, and even some of the games that kind of got on our nerves, kind of became the
like Tom Sawyer's Adventures of Tom Sawyer was we'll get there.
Yes, we will.
Well, I'll get there, and then that'll just make cringy faces at me. It's fine. See, even my son is upset about that. Oof.
Oh no, because Strider for me was a game that not only frustrated me, almost made me cry, and I will get to that story when we get there. Well, just a little bit of history of the Nintendo Entertainment System. It was released on October 18th, 1985. It was considered as a toy and not a video game system because it needed to be in toy stores, and toy stores would thought it was a computer and they wouldn't sell it. So in order for that to happen, they considered it as a toy. That's why you kind of see it in Toys R Us and other places like that. Along with the release, ROB, which stands for Robotic Operating Buddy, was helpful to marketing the system. So it was kind of like a little bit accessory or add-on with it. Nintendo had its sights for the Famicom to release through Atari. It had the name Nintendo Advanced Video Game System, but it fell through once Atari seen Coleco showcasing Donkey Kong on its console. I did not know that because the Famicom
I didn't know that either.
Yeah, the Famicom was out, and Nintendo, I guess, wanted to like get into the market of it, and so in order for them to do that, I guess they was gonna partner up with Atari because Mario Brothers, not Super Mario Brothers, but Mario Brothers was on the Atari 2600, and I remember.
Well, so was Donkey Kong. So was Donkey Kong. See, I had it.
I don't remember Donkey Kong on the Atari.
Yeah, we got all the really bad arcade ports when my dad brought home our NES or our Atari. It was Donkey Kong. It was Pac-Man. Like it was. I don't think I had Mario Brothers, but I remember like all of the bad arcade ports in this Atari, which was like at the time, like in the 80s, it was cool, right? I mean, it was cool. Mm-hmm. You brought the arcade home and hooked it up to your TV. It was cool. You didn't know they were bad at the time, but man, Atari and even NES Pac-Man, dude, they're just bad.
Oh, well, no, we're gonna have a discussion.
I know. I'm just saying, like it was like I just remember Donkey Kong on the Atari, and it was like really jarring.
Okay. Um. Well. In America, it sold 34 million consoles, and that's just America. For it, and the system was discontinued on August 14th, 1995. So close to 10
95.
years. Yeah.
And they were already marketing the 64 at that point.
Yeah.
The Nintendo 64 was out in like what? September of 96?
They probably wasn't making no games for it,
No,
but
because Mega Man and Kirby came out in 1996, I think. Didn't hold on. 96 NES games. I'm looking this up because I remember NES games coming out in 1996. Hold on. I'm looking. Hold on. Hold on, everybody. Let me look some things up.
Roy Corey is looking that up.
Oh, nope. I lied.
The
No NES games in 96.
the NES came with the original one. There was kind of I think two bundles because there was one that it had the system. It came with two controllers, the Zapper, Super Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt,
That's the one
and
I have.
Rob.
Oh, I don't have the Rob one. I have the one without Rob.
Yes, I think the first iteration was with Rob.
Yeah.
And then when they discontinued Rob, they just had those because I had um I had that one too, Corey, where it was just the Nintendo, the controllers, the Zapper, and Super Mario Brothers, and Duck Hunt.
I still have the box. I remember the box because the box on the front was advertising the pad for the track not stadium events, the other one, track and field.
Track and field, yeah.
And yeah, I still have the box. Man, my son is not very happy right now.
Yeah. See, I my my cousin had the original NES before I got mine. I remember getting mine in 1987. Because when I got mine, I had played Contra already. I had played Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt, Kung Fu. I had played a lot of that at my cousin's house. But once I got mine, my first third party game actually was Pac-Man. And I had Pac-Man on the Atari for it. So I think that there was a difference at that time because the Pac-Man on the NES kind of felt like a little bit close to the arcade game. Now, even though with the Atari one, I had Pac-Man, Miss Pac-Man, and Junior Pac-Man on the Atari, but I had Pac-Man on the NES, and I played that like every day, and with it.
Yeah, I remember getting mine. It was like so I had an Atari and then I got my Game Boy first. So that was 1989, right? So I think in probably 1989, right after that, my cousin gave me his NES because he got a Sega Genesis, and so I got all of his games.
Yeah, I remember when I got mine, because I think my cousin let me use Ikaria Warriors, and I remember playing Castlevania on it, playing Double Dribble, playing a lot of Konami and kind of Capcom games. I actually when it came to Mega Man, I went to my brother's friend's house and played it there. I didn't start the Mega Man series until Mega Man 2, but I remember playing 1 and seeing how the game was beaten. So when I was able to play Mega Man 1 finally, I knew what all to do. But I actually started the series playing it wise was with Mega Man 2. And I would get my Nintendo games on my birthday or on Christmas time, unless there was like a really cheap sale. And I remember my mom getting Super Mario Brothers 2 through her job because it was a hard game to find.
Yeah, so I was lucky. I ended up so with my NES when my cousin gave it to me, right? He gave me the NES and like gosh, every time I start talking my son starts to cry. I got the NES and I got all 3 Mario games and I got Yeah, I remember when I got my NES, I got all three Mario games. I got Turtles 1 and 2. I got one of the Simpsons games, which was just like I don't really care about the Simpsons, but I remember I got really good at that trivia game. Uh, but I got that. I got Donkey Kong and Donkey Kong Jr. And I still have all those games downstairs. But that was like that was like the extent of my NES adventure, right? Because like I got it
Mm.
late. I was only like 4 when I got mine, uh, and after that, like I ended up getting a Sega Genesis after that because my cousin got one, so my parents just got one for me, you know. And so like my NES was like my Ninja Turtles and Mario machine, and I didn't even experience a lot of what NES had to offer until after the fact, right? Like Metroid and Zelda and Kid
Hmm.
Icarus and you know Mega Man, which I still can't play Mega Man to save my life. So sorry to disappoint you, Ed. But I have so my goal one day is to actually play through the Mega Man games. But
Did you ever get the Mega Man collection?
yeah, I have the Mega Man collection, the Mega Man X. I have both Mega Man X collections.
Mm.
I have both Mega Man collections, and I have Mega Man 11. So I have all of them on the Switch right now, and I
You
just
just
yeah
need to play them.
yeah I
Well, I
do.
well I know uh for me, like I was the kind of kid that, when if I played the arcade version, I had a feeling that that game was going to show up on the Nintendo version, and they were going to be different. They were going to be different graphically, definitely in play style.
Hmm.
That's why when you look at Ninja Turtles, the arcade game,
Hmm.
and you look at the arcade, of course it's going to be like 4 players and all of that. And when we start going through the history of the Super Nintendo, that's going to be a discussion also because
Yeah, I feel like that's the Super Nintendo discussion is going to be a lot longer than this one.
oh yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Uh,
but
uh,
yeah, I mean,
with the
but speaking of
oh,
speaking of Ninja Turtles, sorry, I know as of this
hey,
recording, that Cowabunga collection was just announced like like a week ago. Not to date
uh,
this episode because these are meant to be kind of evergreen episodes, but uh, yeah, man, I was really excited to see the NES versions of the arcade game on there because like
yeah,
sometimes when there's two versions of a game, right? Like they include one but not the other. And it was really cool to see the arcade version and the NES version of that game on there, which was like it was a big deal to know that like that was like the first time I became cognizant of like some companies were putting arcade games on the home console, right? Because like
yes,
I remember when we would go on vacation and stuff, there would be a Ninja Turtles arcade cabinet, right? And it
mm,
it was like all the brawlers in a row, all the Konami brawlers in a row, right? It was X-Men, it was the Simpsons, and it was Ninja Turtles, and they were all in a row. And the X-Men one was always in the middle because it was 6 players, and it was anchored by 2 4-player cabinets, and it was like, oh my
yeah,
gosh, this is amazing. This it was like those are that's like my arcade experience right there. Is like I know a lot of people are like, oh, Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat or whatever. No, the arcade experience for me was Ninja Turtles, X Men, and like Cruising Cruising USA, right? So the fact that like it was the fact that like my 4 or 5 year old brain could put together like that arcade cabinet was playing on my Nintendo at home. It was awesome. It was like that was like the first time I became cognizant of like okay, these games some games exist some places and some games exist all places, like
yeah.
really differentiating first party and third party without really knowing what it was called at the time. But yeah,
Right. Yeah, because even Ninja Gaiden, at the time I was calling it Ninja Gaiden, was different. The
we
arcade
all were.
game was different. What? Right.
I still
Like,
have to think about it when I say it out loud. I'm like Ninja Gaiden. Like I have to like emphasize the Gaiden.
yeah, and I didn't find the name out of it until the Wizard came out, and the guy was just like Ninja Gaiden, And I was just like, Ninja Gaiden. I thought it was Ninja Gaiden.
Yeah.
Like it puzzled my mind because we didn't
Hmm.
actually have commercials that was pronouncing games. Like Tecmo never. I've never seen a Tecmo commercial ever in America
Hmm.
about the series.
Yeah.
But I
Well,
remember. Oh, go ahead.
oh no, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, I didn't realize it was called Gaiden until Ninja Gaiden came out for Xbox, the original Xbox.
Oh wow.
Because like I've never seen the Wizard, so my first introduction to Mario 3, by the way, was not the Wizard. It was Three Ninjas. So
Now, which is weird because I thought you would see the arcade game, the test game, in toy stores,
mm-mm.
and I'm assuming you didn't.
No. See, so like when I was introduced to NES games or arcade games, it was usually with my cousin who was like
Hmm.
he's like 10 years older than me. So like anything that he had I automatically thought was cool. It didn't matter where he got it or what it was, right? Cuz I just wanted to be cool, you know?
Yeah.
Uh so like my introduction to the NES, like he gave me his, but like also my introduction was my grandma had one in her basement, and the only games that we would play were Marble Madness and
Oh
and
goodness.
Double Dragon. Those were the games my grandma had, which was weird, but and that was like my introduction to NES, and then she got me a Game Boy, and then I ended up getting his NES. So like it was like this weird round about way, but
Uh,
yeah, but like I just there's so many interesting and unique games on the NES that I never got a chance to play until I was older. And even now, I really appreciate, especially Konami and Capcom right now,
yeah.
really putting out strong collections of these older games. And like, it's nice to have these old games in a way to in a more modern fashion, to play. So
Yep.
I don't have to like dig out SCART cables or find an HDMI composite, uh, adapter or anything. It's just really nice, and I wish more companies would do this.
Yeah, because there's still like Data East, um, Namco, Tecmo. There's still a lot of Japanese companies that put out a lot of great NES games. Like people don't remember Karnov or Bad Dudes. Like the Data East
I don't think
history
anybody wants to
is.
remember Bad Dudes. Let's be honest.
But you know what? But it was.
Jesse's the one that played it on Switch. Remember when they came to Switch, and uh, I
Yeah,
just
the
remember you
arcade one.
guys talking about him.
Yeah, because I beat the arcade game and I had it for the NES. I beat it on the NES.
Hmm.
Um, and it was, I guess, the reason I even I RIM and stuff. The reason I bring up Data East and all of these other companies because they were kind of like somewhat B tier of gangs, but a lot of them were kind of like their mascots that they were known for on the NES, for the arcade. Like when we talk about Double Dragon, the Double Dragon that we've actually played on the Nintendo is not the real good version. The Sega Master System had the arcade version, which was bonkers at the time because we all knew Double Dragon was on the Nintendo, and like it had that was
Yeah, but
kind
it
of
was
like,
bad.
but I think
Only two enemies on the screen at the same time, and they had to be the
Mhm.
same enemy because they didn't know how to manipulate the RAM in the unit to
Yeah,
make other enemies, right?
yeah.
Which made that game like it was ridiculous. That game was just not great.
But if you look at it, it was kind of the first role playing game mechanic and that wasn't in a role playing game in a sense.
What
Like
do you
we
mean?
have like so
I
in
just remember
order
really bad platforming.
in order to gain more of the moves in it, you had to reach a certain score. Like it almost felt like you were grinding
Oh,
till you
see,
get to a
I
certain
didn't know
point.
that. I
Yeah,
didn't know that.
it's yeah, and you never did that in an arcade game because of course it was two players and everything, and it was slow. Um, Trade West had to do a different mechanic in order to get it because you couldn't do co-op on the NES. But if you play the Sega Master System version, it literally is the arcade. There isn't no um grind system or anything because you was able to drop kick and elbow and uh people in enemies in that. And when you had Billy and Jimmy on screen, you was able to do two-player on the Sega Master System. And the reason why that happened is because Sega made that version. They got the license from, I think, Trade West or whoever held the Double Dragon license, and actually created the game on the Sega Master System. That's why when people play some of the Sega Master games on it, Sega didn't allow no third party games on there. That was part of the notes that I have.
What, on the Master System?
Yeah.
They didn't allow third party games on the Master System? That seems hard to believe.
Yep. The 10 NES authentication chip is in every console and every licensed cartridge. If the console chip cannot detect the counterpart chip inside the cartridge, the game does not load. Nintendo portrayed these measures as intended to protect the public against poor quality games and placed a golden seal of approval on all licensed games released for the system. Nintendo was not as restrictive as Sega, which did not permit third-party publishing until the Media Genic in late summer of 1988. Nintendo's intention was to
by that time they're prepping for the Genesis at that point. So
yeah, but then it still carried along even to the Sega Genesis, because when Strider and Forbidden Worlds came out on the Sega Genesis, even Super Ghouls and Ghosts, Sega did all of those versions. Capcom did not do it. Capcom didn't release their first game until Street Fighter 2. And Konami, they started out putting the games out, but that was like real late into the Super Nintendo life. So that's why you got Zombie Ate My Neighbors and Rocket Knight Adventures only on Sega Genesis and Snatcher on Sega CD. It was because Konami took a long time to get onto the Sega Genesis. Like, Sega wasn't letting nobody doing it until, I think, maybe a couple of years, or maybe a year after the Sega Genesis came out, or 2 years, because that's when we started seeing like Mortal Kombat and all of those other games. Because I don't know how Sega was able to make that Mickey Mouse game.
What, Castle of Illusion?
Castle of Illusion, yes. Sega made that.
Yeah, I mean, it was probably just a deal by Disney, to be honest.
But Capcom had the Disney games, I think, on the NES, because they had Chip and Dale, DuckTales, Tailspin.
Well, I mean, maybe Capcom developed it and Sega published it. Maybe that was the way they got it over here.
So then, how did Aladdin? This is crawling into Super Nintendo era territory, so I'm sorry, everybody. How did Aladdin?
I mean, once you get into there and Sega realized they had to battle Nintendo, then they probably loosened that stuff up, because I don't know. I remember third-party games on the Genesis.
Yeah,
specifically Konami games, right? Like Rocket Knight and Turtles, and you know what I mean? Like, there's enough of that stuff on there that must have changed real early on.
Because by time, as long as, I don't know what year it was, but I'm like, that's why the 6-button controller was done for the Sega Genesis.
Well, those were that was done for like the fighting games, right? Because I remember specifically a lot of people were excited for Street Fighter on the Genesis.
Yeah, because they didn't really have Eternal Champions was the only fighting game out at that time for the Sega Genesis, and Sega made that. So Sega has a history.
Gosh, we got to do it. We got to do one on the Sega Genesis at some point.
Yeah, because I feel like the Sega Genesis is important not only to the 16-bit system but to gaming in general.
I mean, I think the Genesis is important because it gave Nintendo a run for their money, right? I mean, I know it was kind of the only console that did well for Sega, but I mean, it did enough to scare Nintendo a little bit, right? So
yeah,
because they were allowing quote unquote mature games on their platform, and they had a rating system before the ESRB existed, and they had the Sega Channel, which was essentially Game Pass before a Game Pass. You know, I mean, Sega was just like, they were really ahead of their time in a lot of ways, on a lot of their systems, right? And
Hmm.
it just you know, timing is everything, I guess. But they just, man, I remember the Genesis being like a modular console, which, I mean, look what we have now, right? They're essentially, you know, adding memory and stuff to the consoles and stuff. It's just I don't know, right? I mean, they had the uh Sega CD, they had the 32X, they had the Sega Channel, they had the the Sonic and Knuckles cartridge, which you could plug 2 and 3 into, right? They had a lot of interesting things. They had, you know,
They had a headphone jack in the first version of the
yeah, I
Genesis
know, I
because it
have
had
it.
the slide. It had the slider.
Yeah.
Like I like you would never think what we have for Bluetooth gaming for our consoles.
Mm-hmm.
The Genesis was kind of like, even though of course we didn't have Bluetooth technology to push your headphones in, like because Nintendo didn't do it until the Game Boy. But the
Mm-hmm.
Genesis had it where you can listen to the music and stuff. Like I used to play Streets of Rage 2 with the headset, because it was just like there was a difference in hearing the music through the TV than hearing it through the system itself.
Yeah. So, I
So
mean, yeah. Anyways, we'll do a whole episode on the Genesis because I could talk a lot about the Sega Genesis.
yes, my brother had one, so I have history with that system. Oh, trust me, I have some good history with that. But with the NES, yeah, the 10 NES, we covered it on Power Block. And kind of went over what it was like. It's like I said, it was a lockout chip. But Wisdom Tree, they were able to get a hold of the patent or see how they could like override it and started making their Christian games on the system without it being licensed through Nintendo, getting their approval. We talked about Tetris. Um, on Expansion Pass with Tengen, which was Atari's subsidiary, on how they were able to get their games on the system without Nintendo even knowing until Tetris came out.
Yeah.
And that was a very interesting thing. But we remember that when putting the game in and pushing it down and cutting on that power button and seeing that red button. Now, sometimes it would work.
Yeah.
Other times it would flash.
Yeah.
And a lot of tricks were you had for some people they put it under their t-shirt and they blew into the cartridge, and or they would be able to put it in and then put it like down, try it to see if it would cut on. If it didn't, they cut it off. And sometimes they would move the cartridge around and then press it down again and then it would work.
Yeah. Oh, let me tell you what I had to do for my NES for years until I replaced the pins about 5 or 6 years ago. I had to like put it in like 3/4 of the way and then try to push it down into the NES before the cartridge was all the way in, and that was the only way it would work.
Oh wow.
I'm surprised it did not break my NES. Like for real, it was. I think about it now and the sounds that thing made as I pushed the
Hmm.
cartridge down, and oh my gosh, it was like, what was I doing? What was I doing? So I mean, yeah, it's the NES was and then they finally released that top loading one with the dog bone controller, which was essentially a Super Nintendo controller with 2 buttons instead of 6. But I mean,
Yeah.
man, uh, yeah. But I mean, they made the NES look like a VCR, so it would look like it belonged in the living room, right? That
Yeah.
was the whole redesign from the Famicom, was so that it
Yeah.
looked like it belonged in the living room.
Yeah, you would put it in, put it down, and then you would close the top
Yeah.
so the dust wouldn't get in.
Uh huh.
But like as kids, we didn't think about that. We were just
No.
like we could put our games in and just play it
Yeah,
and
I mean,
everything.
it's a similar thing to what the Wii was later, right? Where Nintendo designed the console so you would know how to use it when you hooked it up, just like a
Yeah.
VCR, right? People were learning how to use VCRs, and they're like, well, we don't need to change. We want people to apply that logic to our console. So instead of a tape, you put in a cartridge and you put it in. Now, I mean, obviously, you had to press down, right? Instead of the VCRs kind of suck the tape in and
Yeah.
put it down for you. But it was the same notion, and then it was the same thing as the Wii later, where this controller looks like a remote. I know how to point a remote at the TV, right? And then
Yes.
so they were doing that way back in the 80s.
Yeah. It was the ease of access for it. Now, when we think of the NES, of course we think of a lot of their first party games, and it's
Power
completely
Glove.
undeniable. We'll get to the Power Glove. We'll get to accessories, trust me.
The
Uh,
Zapper.
uh, but like there are a lot like so I talked about this on Pop like way back when that I didn't know that Miyamoto and his team did the version of Kung Fu for the NES. That was an IRM game that was in the arcade, but Miyamoto and the team did the port for the Nintendo. Did not know that. A lot of their games when they first started out were come in from the black box, and it was considered as the black box collection with this. So Super Mario Brothers was one of them. Um, Kung Fu was another one of them. Metroid and Kid Icarus weren't part of it. They weren't part of the silver collection because when those games started coming out, they were silver. Golf is one of them. Uh, they had a ski game, and I cannot think of it. That was one of them. Uh, yeah, I like a lot of their sports ones was part of it, and pinball was part of it. So it was kind of like their like little basic names, like sports games and stuff like there that came out and do it. I think the alley one that we was talking, no, Urban Champions was one of them. Uh, and they had an alley game that was like a shoot 'em game for the Zapper.
Yeah.
With it.
Yeah.
Uh,
So when I think of the NES, I guess in terms of in terms of games, like man, I mean I think of Super Mario and I think of Ninja Turtles, obviously, but I also think of like the hours I spent playing Tetris, you know,
mm-hmm.
or the hours I spent playing Marble Madness. Marble Madness, dude, was the game, right?
It was so hard for me to play that game.
I mean, Marble Madness was like the game I always look forward to playing when I went over to my grandma's house because my parents wouldn't buy it for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, which whatever. As an adult and a parent, I understand certain things better, but at the time it was like, man, I want Marble Madness really bad, and I remember Duck Hunt playing with the gun. I thought, I sat there and like tried to, I couldn't understand how this gun was working on the TV, right?
Yeah.
I just didn't understand. I think of a lot of games that I never played. I think of a lot of iconic characters that are still around today, making their first appearance there, right?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously Mario and Luigi and Link and Zelda and Samus, but also like you think of Mega Man, you think of, I mean, you think of Pit from Kid Icarus, you think of, I don't know, even Pac-Man to an extent, even though like Pac-Man, the NES version of Pac-Man wasn't very good, right? But I don't know, you just think of all these iconic characters that are still around, Donkey Kong, and they survived so long, and I think that says a lot to I think that says a lot to how Nintendo designs games. I think that says a
Mm-hmm.
lot to creating an interesting world and interesting characters on a platform that revolutionized the home market after the crash in the 80s, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's a big part of it too, right? Like everybody kind of points at the NES as the starting point of console gaming. Like, no, I mean Atari and ColecoVision and the Magnavox Odyssey were all home
Yeah.
consoles before that, and there were so many people making games for these consoles that it's just like, I mean, they did a whole documentary on the ET cartridge for.
I still want to see that one.
I mean, and that landfill ended up being a lot more than just ET, right? It was like a ton of Atari garbage, but I mean the myth of the ET cartridge and how ET killed the console gaming market, right?
Right.
And so a lot of people just kind of point at Nintendo being the starting point, and look at what they did in a dead market with interesting games that taught you how to play the games or didn't teach you, right? I mean, you look how vastly different look how vastly different Zelda is from Super Mario Brothers, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Mario, if you don't jump over that first Goomba, you die, right? So the game teaches you how, like, to avoid enemies, to jump, and then they have the flashing question mark blocks, and you hit them, and there might be something in it, right? And so, that game teaches you a lot based on game design, whereas Zelda doesn't teach you anything. If you don't go in that first cave right there in that first screen, you don't get the sword, and you're done.
Exactly.
You're done, right? And so, I mean, Nintendo just did a lot with game design that was interesting and unique and worlds that people wanted to be in, right? I mean, at the time, Zelda was the Dungeons and Dragons game that, was on the screen. Or Metroid was like the Alien game that we never got. Isolation, scary, shooting aliens, shooting big creepy bosses, right? And so Nintendo did a lot with the IP. They did a lot with their games.
And we didn't even know at the time that the games that we were getting were different from the Famicom versions in Japan. The original Legend of Zelda is literally different in Japan than it is in America. Super Mario Brothers 2. Okay, we keep going back there, and everybody knows that now it's Doki Doki Panic. But we didn't, as kids, we didn't know. If you was looking at
we didn't get it until Super Nintendo as the Lost Levels.
Right, and when Nintendo Power came out, and we was seeing it, like when they did Super Mario Brothers 2, they did like a claymation of it, and they spoke nothing of Doki Doki Panic. Japan didn't want us knowing any of that.
Yeah. Or I mean, look at Metroid. It is a totally different game over there because it was based on the Famicom disk system.
Yeah.
Which was like super revolutionary and changed a lot of the way that game works, but we didn't get that version here, right? Because we didn't get the Famicom disk system.
Right, because the thing about it is you were able to save games on the Famicom disk system. We didn't get it. We got Metroid, but it came with a password. And same thing with Kid Icarus. That it was a vertical. What people don't know about Kid Icarus, it was a vertical game. It wasn't horizontal until you got to the second portion of that first level. Everything continued to be vertical, and when it really changed, like it's kind of almost in a way 3 games in itself: a vertical jumper, a Metroid style adventure when they get to the second level, and then the last level turns into a 2D shoot 'em up. Like who was creating anything like that? I still believe, and then maybe just me, I've never seen anything like that done to this very day. No, and Ice Climbers, that is what it is. But a lot of people don't. I never played Ice Climbers on the NES. It came and went, and I didn't realize it until like Smash Brothers to be like, yeah, this was a popular game. I'm like, when? Because I don't remember Ice Climbers on NES.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I mean, Ice Climbers was like Ice Climbers was this really weird thing. I mean, I didn't play it really. I mean, I played it a little bit, but I mean, it was like this really weird vertical jumping, like you said, vertical jumping game. And I just remember there was like a polar bear at one point, or like, you know what I mean? Like they ended up making that level in Smash Brothers that was kind of like Ice Climbers, but man, that game was weird.
Oh, and that was a black box one too.
Yeah.
And we got to mention the box art, because the box art that you would get on that you would see that would introduce you into the game kind of to represent what the game was. But you would see that box art on the cover. And
Hmm.
still to this day, I love the Ninja Turtles. We keep going back to the Ninja Turtles, but Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from Ultra,
The first one.
that box that box cover is still amazing, dude.
Hmm.
I love it.
Yeah, that first one was really cool because it was really the only time where they depicted the turtles with their red masks. All of them were wearing the red masks, right?
Hmm.
And in the comic books, that's how they were depicted, like that first run, right? But then obviously they, to tell the turtles apart, they were like, well, we should probably change the color of their face masks. We should probably give them a little bit of personality, right? And
Yeah.
I mean, obviously that's where the cartoon kicked in, and in the video game they have the quote unquote right colored masks, but on the cover art, man, it was awesome. It was so
Yeah.
cool to see, and I always wanted. I mean, I know like the red masks are different now. Like, I mean, you're never gonna go back, but I always thought would be really cool that if they ever made that gritty Turtles game that I've always wanted, if they would just use the red masks, and how cool that would be.
I would kind of love it in the Kawabunga collection if that was just like a filter. No
Hmm.
matter what game that you play, you get that filter of having the red mask
Yeah, yeah, it'd
and
be
stuff.
super cool. So,
Um, and of course, everybody, we got the Mario Brothers 3 with that big yellow on it
I
with
mean, it was
Mario on
just
the
this big
records.
yellow box with Mario on it. It's like, here you go. If you don't see
Uh,
us, then sorry, we're
right.
yellow.
Uh, Tech. I love the Ninja Gaiden box with Tecmo. Of course, when you look at Mega Man, and you see that box art, it's completely well. Actually, the Mega Man 1 and Mega Man 2 had a Mega Man with a gun. It didn't come out to Mega Man 3 when they actually was able to have that box art for that game. But
Hmm.
Mega Man 1 and Mega Man 2 had that weird kind of look to it for the box art because American artists they couldn't depict at when Mega Man first came out, they didn't know who he was.
Hmm.
So they just had some artists draw it and everything. And he was just like, I didn't have that much detail on anything, so I have to make it what it is. And then Mega Man 2, still it had him as in the blue suit, but he still like looked like a man and not like a robot. To what we know his
Hmm.
look now and
Yeah,
everything. And
yeah.
I think when Kenji Inufune got his hand on it, he was just like, okay, I'm going to design the characters and stuff. And now this is the representation of Mega Man.
Hmm.
You know?
Yeah, Mega Man's a weird one too because like in Japan he was called Rockman, right? Because they were
Yes.
going for the rock and roll thing,
Hmm.
and obviously his sister's name is Roll. But when they brought it over here, why did they change it when he came over here?
Um, I I really don't know. There is some there. I think Capcom USA, people wouldn't get it and stuff. Then they would have thought that he would have been shooting like rocks and stuff or something.
Mm,
That may be the story.
may-
But
maybe they
Capcom
just
just
maybe they just thought we were dumb.
yeah, they just I think they said the game wouldn't sound right in America, so they went with Mega. I think Mega was such a cool thing in the 80s. So I think they went with Mega because it was just like a hip thing with the young kids. So Capcom probably went with that.
Yeah.
That's why when you watch the NES, not NES, when you watch Captain Nintendo or Captain N,
Mhm.
and you hear Mega Man with that, hello everybody,
Oh my
we're gonna
gosh,
do a
dude.
mega fight. He
Mm.
he kept saying Mega because
Can we
they
talk
thought
about
Mega
Captain
Man
N for a
was
little bit, by the way? Because I mean that
yes.
really ties into the NES a lot, right? God, that
Mhm.
cartoon was so bad.
I watched it religiously.
So did I, but I mean, like, it just like it was bad. Like, you go back and watch it now, it was like, oh my
Mhm.
gosh, what is going on? What is happening in this show, right? I mean, gosh, Mega Man had the worst voice, and then, uh, man, it was just Captain N looked like. I mean, obviously they were trying to make him look cool, right, with the Letterman
Yeah.
jacket and like the Chuck Taylors, and he was cool, right? But man,
That
rough.
controller belt though, I did like.
Yeah, but I mean, the man, the character designs in that show had nothing to do with the quality of the show.
Yes,
Right?
this is 80 animation, everybody.
Man, yeah, it was definitely outsourced to. Man, I just
Cause like, and would you even think of it before even the 90s, before like the Donkey Kong cartoon and stuff?
But I mean, even like, I mean, what's Pitt gonna do in this show, right? I mean, who's okay? So Captain N and the Game Masters. Let's take a look here. The original run of show, right? Obviously, Captain N looked cool, but then you have like this weird version of Pitt. You have this weird version of Mega Man who's basically green. He has the dog. And then who is that girl supposed to be Zelda in the show? Like,
I don't know. She was another character made
no,
up for the
because
show.
no, because Zelda and Link are in the show. But so like she was just
No,
like his sidekick.
Zelda and Link was in Super Mario Brothers.
I'm looking at a screenshot right here of like.
Are you serious?
Link.
I don't remember
There was
that.
so it was a crossover. Okay, it was a crossover episode. Apparently there was a crossover episode that was really big. There was a Link Zelda crossover where Captain N and this giant Game Boy helped Link and Zelda save the world. But this version of Zelda is like this. She looks like if Xena Warrior Princess had like a pink outfit on. Oh my gosh, this is
my goodness.
Man, so I haven't really watched this show since like the early 90s, so like all this is kind of interesting. Samus is in an episode. That's cool.
It was a Saturday morning cartoon on Channel 5 on NBC.
I know. And then like there's a Tetris episode. Oh my gosh, this is awful.
Yeah, because I think they had like musical videos or something, or music would play, and he would go through different lands and warp and stuff.
Yeah.
And I remember the Tetris one was to the Tetris people was falling, and they were jumping like up on him.
Yeah.
And everything.
Yeah. Man, this is boy. Anyways, man, Captain N is just what a treasure of a show. When is Nintendo going to release all of the terrible TV shows into one package?
Oh shoot!
So it would be the Super Mario Super Show, and then like the cartoons that came after, right?
Super Mario Bros. 3, Super Mario World.
Yeah. Like so, those three cartoons, the bad. No, don't give me the terrible CG Donkey Kong show. No, I'm talking about the 80s and early 90s cartoons. Okay. I don't want the bad. Dude, have you looked at the way Donkey Kong looks in that show recently?
It's been so long since I've seen it, but I remember that show coming on Sundays.
Boy.
And I've seen parts of it, but I haven't seen the whole series.
Yeah. I remember, so aside from, good Nintendo cartoons, by the way. Kirby Right Back at You was pretty good.
Yes. Great theme song.
Yeah.
Love that theme song.
Yeah. That was on was that on the Fox?
Yep, Fox Kids.
Yeah, I think it was on right after that second Ninja Turtles show at some point.
Yeah.
Because I remember that's how I caught it. And that's when I became a big fan of King DDD.
His hammer.
Oh my gosh, he's the best. But so back to like the 90s cartoons. You have the bad Zelda shows.
Mm-hmm.
Captain N. What else was then? Was there anything else back then?
I think Double Dragon was close to the 90s, I think.
There's a Double Dragon show? I didn't even know that.
Yeah, Double Dragon had a cartoon to it. We know Mortal Kombat was in the 90s because that was on USA.
Yeah.
Network. And Street Fighter had a cartoon.
Yeah.
So this game is this cartoon isn't on a Nintendo console, but it was done by Capcom as an arcade game, Cadillac and Dinosaurs. That was on it. Was a video game, but it's based off a comic, and Capcom did the video game and they did a cartoon for it. Because it was after when Ninja Turtles got moved to CBS, it came on after it.
Okay.
Man,
we need to. We
Do
need
you
to
remember?
do like a watch along of these episodes.
Yes, I remember. Michael Jordan, Wayne Gretzky, and Bo Jackson. They had their
Oh
cartoons,
yeah, yeah.
but they weren't like a video game. I think that was pretty much all the video game stuff. Um, because there was Street Fighter, the Japanese one, but that was all in Japan and stuff. Um, and they never did anything else. Oh, there was one because it wasn't Game Pro, but it was another kind of tip show that had its own cartoon because it had the monster
Mm,
truck. It had this black guy. I think he was from Arch Rivals, but he was a basketball player.
mm,
It had that cherry on it. And some other dude. I cannot think of it.
mm. Huh. I
But
don't
it
know.
was, yeah. It was. Man, I remember watching it, but it was in the '90s.
Hmm. I don't know. I I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm trying to figure out. I'm trying to I'm trying to look some stuff up, but it doesn't really say anything else than what we already mentioned. So
Well, getting back to the accessories, so we had the power glove,
God.
which was a big thing, and definitely going back to the wizard, with Lucas saying the famous line, the power glove. I love it, and he was playing Rat Racer,
Oh God.
on it.
Who's
Um,
playing Rad Racer with the Power Glove? First of all, I have Rad
dude,
Racer, by the way. That game is
did
like,
did look at the history of the power glove. Did not know that it contained NASA technology in it. I'm like, wait, what?
yeah. I mean, that was like, because they were originally going to use that for like spacewalks and stuff, right? That
Yeah.
technology, and then Nintendo was like, well, let's make games out of it, and not very well. Man, the Power Glove is cool though. I always wanted one, and I never had one. I never had that. I never had a Rob. I always thought those two things would be really cool in like a office type setting. But
I remember my friend he had the power pad um for us uh to
track and
play
field,
track and field. Yeah.
yeah. I
Video
have the Zapper, which is like the only accessory I have for that. And then obviously I have two controllers, but the Zapper was like that was really the only thing I had. So
uh, so video power was the TV show. But
video power, huh?
yeah, cuz it came on channel 50 which was known before it was known for UPN
Yeah. Okay.
with it.
Interesting.
Man,
Interesting.
and Nick Arcade. I love Nick Arcade.
Nick Arcade. All
But
right.
oh yeah, but you know, of course we mentioned Rob at that time. And then of course we had like the Game Genie, which
Oh
was
my
a
gosh, Game
big
Genie.
deal. Yeah, which was a big deal because Nintendo couldn't do nothing about it, but it was ruining people's systems and games because it was putting in cheats that it weren't meant for to be put in.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're literally changing the code of the game to give you specific things, right? I mean, that was the appeal of Game Genie was, in Mario 3, you had infinite P power the whole time, right? And
Yeah.
yeah, I remember that. Gosh, that was so cool. I never owned one, but my friend had one, and we would use it for Super Mario. We would use it for Ninja Gaiden, and we would use it for we used it for Tetris to get all long pieces. That was one of the codes, and like we ended up seeing the rocket ship take off at the end,
Uh-huh.
which like probably should have told us something about communist Russia back then about their game ending with a rocket boost. Like I don't know, it's kind of scary to think about now, especially now. But
Oh wow.
yeah, I don't know. Shouldn't probably really be laughing about that either. So sorry, everybody. But yeah,
Yeah. So,
Man, Tetris though, man. It was so boring. Tetris with all long pieces was so boring. Like you'd think it was cool because you're like, oh, I'm gonna get Tetris every time and get a perfect score or whatever, and it's like, wow, no, it was so boring.
uh, man, I just touch is just so good. It's just such, it don't need a game, Gene. You just need to just zone out with that
I
game.
do every night before bed.
Because I swear, playing that mug on the Game Boy and then playing it on the NES was just like
hmm
my comfort game on there.
hmm
Um,
The box art for Tetris 2 was awesome.
yeah, the
Not
blue.
not Tetris 2, but Tetris also. That was what I meant. God, no, Tetris 2. No.
mm,
Yeah, like you were saying, the blue and then like the colored blocks coming down was so cool. I used it on an episode of Expansion Pass recently, and yeah, it's definitely one of the coolest box arts I've ever seen. I just want a poster of that.
Yeah. Um, I think that's when Nintendo started getting more into puzzle games because they did that Yoshi game, with the cookies. I think, um, with that, but then they got into like playing the puzzle league and stuff like Tetris
hmm
64 and stuff like. They started getting more into that like later on. Even Super Nintendo, I think there was Nintendo did a puzzle game
hmm
for it, which I have to do some more research. But you know, Tetris, like the ultimate version, if you didn't play it on Game Boy and you didn't play that at the arcade, it was the NES version that people were playing. And so
Yeah.
now we gotta talk about some of the bad games.
Oh gosh.
uh,
Are
so
we going to talk about the good games eventually, like our favorite games on the NES?
that's gonna be our last portion
Okay.
of it. Yeah,
I mean, okay. Gosh. Can I go first?
go ahead.
So, I brought it up earlier, but I had this game. It was basically a ripoff of Bayou Billy, which also is not a very good video game in my opinion,
Yes.
but it was The Adventures of Tom Sawyer. And boy, did they, man, if if that game was popular enough today, like back then, it would be ripped to shreds today because it was like it's entirely racist, right? I mean, there's a character.
Hmm.
I know this is gonna offend our indigenous like, community, but the character's name is Injun Joe, and they like to say his name a lot, and he's the bad guy, and it's just all kinds of messed up. There's also a black character in there that if anybody's familiar with the Adventures of Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn, you know his name. I'm not gonna say it. Uh, that's incredibly racist. Um, and it's in there, and it's just like, oh my gosh! So, like looking back on, it, I was like, why would you let a 4 or 5 year old play this game? Why would you let a 5 year old play this game? So
Uh,
anyway, like the whole premise of the game was you're floating down this river on a raft to try to escape from Injun Joe and free uh, the the black character from slavery is like the entire premise of the game, and it's real bad. The gameplay is bad. The story is bad. The overall theme is bad. So, yeah.
uh, well, for for me, it was Strider on the NES, and that one was different than the arcade version. And the reason why I considered as a bad game, the wall jump didn't work
Oh, jeez.
on it. So you were supposed to be able to jump up, and there was the thing about it, and this was the thing with even Bionic Commando. With a lot of NES games, if you did not look at the instruction manual, you would not know what to do. A lot of
hmm
kids just like get the game and play, but it had this kind of Metroid vibe to it, this adventure game, but at parts of it, you to get up or some places you had to like wall jump, where
hmm
there was no indication for you to wall jump up or anything. And I remember trying for hours trying to get up the certain section, and I got literally frustrated and almost was about to cry and cut the game off and said that I would never play Strider ever again.
Hmm.
Um, because it literally was a terrible game.
Hmm.
Um,
I
you
believe you.
know, uh, there's another one that I actually asked um for my birthday. It's called Wrath of the Black Ninja. No, Wrath of the Black Manta. And it's a ninja game that I was so mad when the commercial made it look like, oh, this is a cool 2D ninja game, and then when you look at it, it's just and play, it's so bad. I couldn't even beat the game and stuff. Like even they got representation, but you go look at this, you look at the game and you look at the black characters. There's one character that looks just like the Joker from the Batman movie.
Wow.
And I'm like, oh my goodness. Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah.
I'm doing Ed. Wow.
uh, that was you got another bad one, Corey?
Man, I have a lot of bad NES games, I guess. That the Simpsons game that I told you I got really good at the trivia at. That
Yeah.
Bart versus the World. I mean, most of those Simpsons games were just pretty bad, but yeah, man, that's the Simpsons game was bad. The first Ninja Turtles game is not very good. Like, it's interesting, but like from a gameplay perspective, it's just not very good. Like, you want to use Raphael and Michelangelo first, right? Because it's the game at the beginning is easier. And look, Donatello has the reach, Leonardo has the reach, and then Michelangelo to an extent has reach. But like, man, that just getting up close to any of those enemies is just bad news.
Yeah, man. The Goonies 2
Yeah,
for the NES. Because the movie never got there was never a Goonies 2.
yeah.
Um and I did not know what to do in that game at all. It never told you anything. It never let you know where you're supposed to go. Like it was bad.
Yeah.
You know. I was just like, and RoboCop by Ocean was bad too.
Yeah.
A lot of the LGN stuff, like Back to the Future, Friday the
Oh
13th.
yeah. I mean, like a lot of the licensed stuff was real bad.
Uh, A Nightmare on Elm Street wasn't bad, but it was just challenging. It was kind of weird. Great music though. I do enjoy the music for that.
What was the
Uh,
what was the game? What was the bad game that fooled everyone that had the amazing box art? I forget something towers something.
Deadly Towers.
No, maybe I totally no. Gosh, I wish I could remember the game. I don't remember.
It had
Uh,
a night on it, and you was going like,
no. Hold on. I don't remember. Keep going. I'm gonna look it up.
yeah, because I think that. So if it was Deadly Towers, I think that was the name of it. You was like this knight who would now for people who are into Souls games. To me personally, this is the originator of it because you had to literally you only got one life and you had to go up to I think it's like 50 some levels or something and you're in this tower and if you died you had to there was no like continuous or anything. You had to start all the way over from the beginning and it was simply hard. There was no way to gain health back. If it was you weren't getting that much. It was a challenging game
Hmm.
on the NES. Um, but I remember like that one. Um, Yo Noi was one of it. Was like a really challenging game. It was Yo and for people we talked about Yo Noi because it was like the mascot for Domino's back in the 80s. And Capcom made a game of it. Like there was a way to tell a good Capcom game and a bad Capcom game. Like Street Fighter 2010 was a terrible game.
Well, yeah. I mean, the first Street Fighter game is awful.
Yeah.
Uh,
Uh.
Fact Xanadu was the game I was thinking about.
Ooh.
Has a really cool box art, but it like it sucks. I've
Yeah.
never played it. I heard people hate it. I heard people don't like that game.
Yeah. Um. There
But
were some. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, you talk about box art though, like we iconic box art, like the all of Konami's games were awesome, right? They had that
Mhm.
silver kind of wrap with the box art kind of centered in the middle, right? I just remember the Castlevania box art and
Yeah.
just how cool it was, right? Like, because it had like the green, what was it, like a yellow, neon yellow or green font with the red behind it, and then you just saw, uh, what's his face with the whip in front of the castle and Dracula's face in the background. Like, it was awesome. I just remember that box art being really cool. So,
Yeah. Gradius had some good box art. Um. Let's see. River City Ransom. No, that looks like cheap. River City Ransom looked like a cheap movie
oh god,
poster.
yeah, but I mean,
uh.
like you sometimes you get like the bad box art, like the bad box art Mega Man, right? I mean, that was the big
Yeah.
joke in Marvel versus Street. No, Marvel versus Capcom 3.
With the bad Mega Man. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was like, oh my gosh, dude, the Mega Man box art is just really bad. It says nothing about the game, nothing, zero. Doesn't even look
Uh,
like Mega Man. Mega Man is a boy, and they have this like 40-year-old man in a yellow jumpsuit.
yeah. And, man, we didn't even touch on the Legend of Zelda with this gold cartridge.
I mean, we
You know.
can. Why? I mean, why don't we? We're not really. We don't really have a structure to the show. We just talk about what we remember.
Well, it was because you would think that Nintendo games would come in just that dark
Hmm.
gray cover, and
Hmm.
to get this gold cartridge, it was something different. Like
Well,
for
remember
even
the
the
box.
material looked different.
I mean, even the box had the cutout in the corner because I mean, the first run of Zelda cartridges was gold, right?
Yeah,
They did eventually release a gray cartridge one, but like they had a little cutout in the top to show you that it was a gold cartridge,
yeah,
which was cool. It was really neat.
yeah. I remember getting the Legend of Zelda, beating it. Um, but I more think about Legend of Zelda 2 when I got it because I was at a furniture store, like a community furniture store in another city that my mom would go to, and
Hmm.
they had a cart full of Nintendo games. And the thing about it is, I had a choice of getting Dr. Jekyll or Mr. Hyde or The
Oh,
Legend of
gross.
Zelda 2. So I got Legend of Zelda 2, and man, I was so happy to get that home and was getting my tail beat in that game. My mom, she let me play it like for an hour, then I had to go to bed because of school,
Yeah.
you know.
Wow.
Uh, I remember Donkey Kong 3, uh, where you were like a hunter or some kind of person, and you had to get Donkey Kong up into the honey thing, and stuff. City Connection was one, by Jalico, and I think if people look at it, it was kind of a very anime, um, s- box art. Like if you take a look at it, it was kind of weird. Rob had Wrecking Crew. Um, and man, like there's just yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
I remember Rygar too. I actually beat Rygar and Bionic Commando without the instruction guide. I beat those games in one sitting, and that was hard. It took me a long time to beat those games. I didn't beat them till like 1992 when I moved in the current house that I'm in now.
Wow. Wow.
Yes. So
Uh
Excite Bike, oh.
oh, Excite Bike. Yeah, I I just remember like Excite Bike was like my cousin always tried to convince me that Enduro Racer was better.
Oh wow.
I was like, are you
Uh,
sure? I don't. Are you sure?
did you play pro wrestling?
No, no.
Okay.
Um, although I will. So with NES Online, with the Switch now,
That's what I'm looking at.
I think that there's a lot of I think there's a lot of things that I would like to try eventually that I never have, especially now that I have the NES controllers for it. I still want the Super Nintendo and this 64 one, but we'll get there when I get there. If they ever put them back out, let's be honest. But yeah, I don't know.
Ooh.
I feel like the best way right now is like Switch Online and the collections that these third party companies are putting out are kind of the ideal ways to start playing these games and really kind of figuring them out. So
Yeah, playing Tecmo Bowl. I feel like I would get my tail
Tecmo
kicked.
Bowl.
I would
Yeah.
get my tail kicked from Tecmo Bowl playing against you. I think because you're so knowledgeable about football.
Dude, it has
All
nothing to do with that. You're the Raiders and you're Bo Jackson and you do the zigzag run. Let's be honest here. Let's be honest. Nobody, if you are the Raiders, you are not getting past Bo Jackson. You toss the ball and you run a zigzag and you win.
It's so weird. I don't know, and it may just been my household. Tecmo Bowl was the football game on Nintendo,
Mm-hmm.
and Joe Montana was the football game for Sega Genesis.
It was, and I had Joe Montana. I had like 3 versions of it. It was awesome.
You know what? I didn't like to.
Joe
There
Montana,
was some,
dude. Joe
okay.
Montana definitely had a Tecmo Bowl type cheat code in it, where all you had to do was run a fake punt, and then all you had to do was do like spin moves and zigzag, and you scored a touchdown every time.
I think because EA made it before they started doing the Madden games.
No,
I believe.
no, it. Who did Joe Montana? Joe Montana football was done by the same. Hold on, I gotta look this up. It was not EA.
Because I thought Sega had asked EA to make them a football game
Uh-uh.
before.
No, because Madden was on Genesis.
I know it was, but I thought Joe Montana came out before Madden. The Madden series started.
Sega published it. Oh, you're right. Electronic Arts was involved in it.
Because I remember
Blue
reading.
Sky Software.
Because I remember reading it, and I really thought I didn't know that EA had anything with
Why-
it because
why
I thought
would they-
Sega massive.
Why would they though? That doesn't
I
make any
really don't
sense.
I don't
They
know.
already had a successful football game.
But that's why I was wondering: was Madden out before Joe Montana, or was it vice
Madden
versa?
was out. The first Madden came out in like the 80s.
Because I know, was it Bulls versus Blazers? Was that the first basketball one that EA did for Genesis?
I don't remember.
Or was that no? I think that was the second one.
Yeah,
because-
John Madden football came out in 1988.
By EA.
Yeah. Man, I didn't know any of that.
Yeah, me.
Well, no, that's not right either. Why does it say 1988 on here? I don't know. Whatever. I don't know.
Well, yeah.
I don't know. Oh, I guess that makes sense. 2008 would have been 22. Yeah, because 2013 or 14 would have been the 25th. Yeah, okay, never mind. My math was off. Never mind.
Was it on? It was on Sega Genesis. No.
I think Madden was also on Genesis because you bought a Genesis for sports games because that's where the hockey game was successful and right because like everybody points at NHL '94 as like the best hockey game ever made.
Man, Triple Play was the shoot. That was the. I know people love Ken Griffey Jr. on Super Nintendo, but man, Triple Play on Sega Genesis was the baseball game.
Yeah.
I love that one.
Yeah.
RBI, I think it's RBI baseball or bases loaded. It's one of the baseball games that they actually let you be able to fight in before they took it out.
It wasn't RBI baseball because I had RBI baseball for Game Gear.
Mm-hmm.
Man, Game Gear. Whatever. Anyways, NES guys.
Yes. Uh, so that's just some of our bad games. Now, Corey, let's. Do you think we should do like a top five each
I
of
mean,
our
I don't
games?
know if I could do a top 10 to be honest with you. Just because my NES knowledge is not very. I mean, like I told you, it was Mario and Ninja Turtles for me, and then
Mm-hmm.
later on, the original Metroid game is like one of my favorite games of all time. But other than that, like my NES knowledge is like poor.
Well,
I wouldn't say poor. I would say it's about average.
top three. Let's do our top three then. Because
Uh,
I believe three games is fine.
yeah.
What would be your top three?
All right. So should I just name them all at once?
Yeah.
My top three would be, and this doesn't go for quality. This just goes with how much I really like the games. Obviously, my top three would be probably Ninja Turtles 2, the arcade game. It sucks. It really sucks on the NES, but I love playing. Right. I mean, it was just like the first time you brought home an arcade game to you. I mean, it's probably the same. It's probably the same way that people felt about bringing Street Fighter home to their Super Nintendos for
Mm-hmm.
the first time. Right, is how I felt with Ninja Turtles. It was like, oh my gosh, this is basically the arcade game on my Nintendo. Uh, but it didn't run very well. Right. It there's no extra credits, so like the game wasn't really balanced for home play. It was balanced for arcade play. So like I don't know anybody who actually beat that game. Kind of like the first one, uh, but I really loved it. And then Metroid, the original Metroid game, is going to be up there for me. I know doesn't really age well. Metroid Zero Mission for GBA is actually a really good version of that game. I really hope it comes to Switch in some form soon. But that Zero Mission is the way to play the original Metroid at this point.
Mm-hmm.
It's available on the Wii U eShop if you can get it by the time that store closes. It's a great version of the game. The pixel art is great. The music is great. It's a very solid version of that first game plus a little bit extra at the end. So definitely play that. And then Super Mario Bros. 2 is just, Ed, we've had countless conversations about Mario 2.
Yeah.
The US version, not the Lost Levels, the US version of Mario 2. It's great. Having four distinct characters that have different characteristics to help you beat the level is really cool. It actually, like, you look at that game and you can actually, once you get really good and know the levels and stuff, you can actually pick which character you think would fit the best in that level and actually min-max your play style and everything. It's really awesome. Not having any kind of power-ups is really interesting in that game. It's really just straight skill, to be honest, and I really like that about it. Mario 1, you have the Fire Flower, right? And then Mario 3, you have the Tanuki suit and Fire Flower and Frog suit and boot. All the power-ups you know and love from Mario. But Mario 2 doesn't have any of that. You have the magic carpet, you have the keys, and you have Birdo's egg. And that's about it.
Yeah. Well, we can't forget you got the power block.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but that's from Mario Brothers, though.
No.
Mario Brothers, the original,
Oh, the original.
the arcade
Oh.
Mario Brothers, not Super Mario Brothers.
I'm thinking of Super Mario Brothers. Oh my goodness,
No.
I remember the power block because you would hit it and everybody would fall before you had a chance to. Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, it does have kind of a different function in this game.
Well,
But
you want to know? You want to know what I think? I was so young when I played, because I played Mario Brothers on the Atari. I mentioned that before, but I didn't remember the power block because it looked different in Super Mario Brothers 2. So I thought it was a new power up because picking it up and throwing it. I
Yeah.
didn't even make that connection.
yeah, well, I mean, it does. a different function. It has a different function in Mario 2, but it's still the POW
Mm.
block, right? So, yeah, little
Yeah.
callback to our Nintendo show, which I
Yeah.
forgot we weren't doing until this moment.
Well, I know for me, my number three would be definitely Mega Man 2. I truly just love that game. It was my Christmas game, and just hearing the music, fighting the bosses, fighting that dragon, like I was like, I felt so pressured with that game because it really was slipping my hands and everything. Like I wasn't stressing, but it was the first time as a kid that I was sweating on that game. You know.
Yeah.
Uh, but it was just like fighting those bosses and hearing the music and actually learning to see what works and what doesn't. Like Mega Man 2 was my game. Um, my number two would definitely be Double Dragon 2. And it's because it was the game that my mom got me for my birthday. And I just it was kind of the game that I could actually kill the second player to get extra lives to beat it. That was the only way that I was able to beat that game fully out, and I had to play on the hardest setting to beat that game. With it, so I had to literally use that trick. And that Double Dragon 3 is questionable content garbage. It was just all around bad. Like, and I was so mad that I got that game
Yeah.
that I rented.
Remember Battletoads versus Double Dragon?
Yeah,
That that was a stretch. Now, I mean, I enjoyed that game. I had it for Game Boy, but
mhm,
like, man, that game was just a
a mess.
interesting mashup.
Uh, but my number one would definitely be Super Mario Brothers 3. Um, because like going on the hunt to find that game, playing it at the arcade, watching it in the Wizard, finding where the warp whistle was at, but then actually playing that game, playing all the levels, and seeing how creative they were, I was just like, wow, getting extra power ups, the P Wing, it just felt like the best Mario Brothers on the NES. And I love to. Don't get me wrong. I love to soundtrack, the fights, fighting Birdo, Mauser, hitting King, not King Koopa, but feeding that frog with the vegetables and seeing that it was even the ending credit music is so good and the animation of Super Mario Brothers 2. Even though I love all of that, Super Mario Brothers 3 was kind of like being able to play that game and then seeing my mom play it and beat it. So it holds like a lot of special memories for me with that game.
Yeah. I mean, Mauser is definitely a really cool boss. I wish they would bring back at some point. Uh,
Yes.
and then obviously everybody wants like Wart is such a dumb
That's it.
character. Is like, gosh, like where are these characters? I mean, the only one they've really brought back is Birdo.
And Shy Guy.
Yeah, but they didn't bring back like Fry Guy. They didn't bring back the 3-headed snake thing. Like they didn't bring back any of these characters.
Didn't that mask one? That mask was scary. I hated that mask.
Oh yeah, when it would chase you when you stole the key from the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, and it was just like it just had like, I'm coming for you. Drop my key. You be like, okay, I need this key to open up the door. You go fly away. Pick it up and start running. I used to love Toad because Toad was the fastest, so he could get the key and dip off. And he was quick digging too when you was in the sand levels of
Yeah.
Super Mario Bros. 2.
Yeah. Well, I mean, then you got the bird mouth that you always walk into, and then there's like that
Yeah,
one level towards the end of the game where you go to walk in and he like tries to murder you.
yeah, and you had to hit it with that little top thing,
Yeah.
like throw it.
Yeah, that was like, oh my gosh, I think it was like world 6 or 7 or something.
Yeah, and that was the only way that you had to defeat it in order to pass the level.
Yeah.
Because he would open up and I think that's when we started learning about the power of three.
Yeah.
Because all the bosses were like three besides King Ward. I think he was like 4 or 5.
Yeah, because
hits
you really
and
didn't
stuff.
learn that in Mario 1, right? Because you just always tried to run under Bowser and put him in the lava because you had to hit the key on the
Yeah.
end. But, like, yeah. I mean, Birdo was the same way, too, right? So,
Yep. But Burner was tricky because sometimes they were like he wasn't always throwing the egg. He'll throw like a spike out or a fireball, and
yeah.
you had to be on your you had to be paying attention because he would change up the pattern,
Yeah.
and you would get that one egg and then throw it, and then have to wait about 30 or 40 seconds to get another one to hit him.
Yeah. Yeah. Birdo. What a dumb character. Birdo sucks.
But the first trans character in the Nintendo universe, I would say,
Yeah. Um, yeah.
before they reconned him, and, or her, or it, or whatever.
They. We'll say
They,
they.
yeah,
That's the safe pronoun, I would say.
yes. So, but I think anything else about the Nintendo Entertainment System? I know we talked about Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis. Trust me, when we get to those other the 16-bit era of consoles, because man, even TurboGrafx was good, but that's more me. The Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo, just that era, and of course it was like the thing for console wars, but those both of those systems had some amazing titles, like
Yeah.
literally some exceptional games. Still to this day, still to this day, I think Sonic 2 and
Wow,
sorry
Ed, you all
about that,
right?
everybody.
You dying over there?
Yeah. Ooh.
Can't be doing that.
Mm-mm. Uh, I think Super Mario World and Sonic 2 are some of the best platformers for each system. Yes, I love Yoshi's Island on 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 Super Nintendo, but Super Mario World and Sonic 2 on Sega. Super Mario World on Super Nintendo and Sega, and Sonic 2, just the music and the level design on Sega Genesis. That casino level, I still love it.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
but that was going to, I guess that's going to be it. Did you have anything else to add, Corey?
no, I mean the NES had a lot of good times with the NES, but I mean most of it was obviously just Mario and Ninja Turtles, and then like I just remember. So there's like three very specific things I remember about playing the NES, right? Like I remember sitting behind my parents' couch with a small CRT with like a little tiny like two shelf entertainment system
Hmm.
with my Genesis and my NES hooked up to it, and that was like all I did. Like I don't know, man. Video games were just like that was all I wanted to do ever. Uh, and then playing Marble Madness and Double Dragon in my grandma's basement with my cousin, and then just really kind of going back and playing NES games afterwards, and just playing when I didn't play, and that's
Hmm.
the NES is always going to be iconic.
Yes.
That controller is iconic. The box is iconic, even though it's kind of boring looking. But like, I mean, it's iconic. Nintendo. It made everybody called every single video game console up until probably the PlayStation 2 a Nintendo, right? It didn't matter if it was a Super Nintendo or a
Yeah.
Genesis or a Nintendo 64 or Saturn, right? Like everybody we're gonna go play Nintendo, right? And I don't know. Then there's a special place in my heart for the NES, because it. Yes, I played. Atari was my first home console, right? And I played a lot of Game Boy, but the NES was like the first console that was mine, and I could play
Hmm.
and be happy with the games that I had, and uh, I think the NES is a interesting and special and important console because without the NES we wouldn't be here,
Pretty
So
much, yeah. I know that. Yeah,
We
it
would be
was my
doing a
first.
Sega podcast.
It was my first console that. Oh goodness, a Sega podcast. It was my
The
first
Nintendo
console.
podcast.
Oh no. It was my first console that was actually for me that my mom got me for my Christmas time, and it was the console that kind of Christian the place that when I moved in, the house that I'm in now. That I when I moved in, I remember being in my living room,
Mm-hmm.
and the first game that I was started to play was Super Mario Brothers 2. I played it all the way through because I had to wait at the house for my parents because they had keys, but I think they were going to get extra keys and they had to go out and stuff. And so they had to have someone in the house, so nothing happened. And I remember being in the house and having my TV and having my Nintendo with Super Mario Brothers 2 and going through that whole game without no furniture or anything, just in the living room playing on the floor that whole game.
Yeah. Shout out to Celeste who put in her thoughts of her memories of NES. She said the NES was my first system. My dad plays video games too, so I've been fortunate to enjoy mini games. I vividly remember how he would pick me up from preschool and play Super Mario Brothers, Sesame Street 1, 2, 3, Ninja Gaiden 2, and so many other titles.
Ah, yes.
Yeah. So, oh, I also had Ninja Gaiden 2, which I played a lot, and it was very hard.
Yeah.
It was so hard that I just blocked it out of my memory, even though we
Oh,
talked
wow.
about it like 3 separate times on this podcast.
That ego on Ninja Gaiden 1. But I beat Ninja Gaiden 1 and Ninja Gaiden 2. I did beat those.
I just remember it was cool that you could get like this shadow ability, and it like little
Yeah.
shadow ninjas would follow you behind you.
Which was weird because when Ninja Gaiden 2 came out, it didn't get an arcade port.
Mm-mm.
The only
No,
the first original Ninja Gaiden game was the only one that got a port.
but they
I
did
mean
get the
that got
it did get the Ninja
okay.
Gaiden trilogy on Super Nintendo,
Yes,
which
I
is
love.
like incredibly difficult to find.
Oh yeah, I remember renting it from Blockbuster,
Mm-hmm.
and then we had it was called like West Coast, not West Coast Video, something Coast Videos, that we no People's Choice. That's what it was. I'm sorry. Um, it was People's Choice that was like up from my house, like 15, like a 10-minute walk. That you every Monday you could get the gas for $2 for 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
And so they had Ninja Gaiden there, and they were selling Nintendo games for like 50 cents there. So me and my friends, we had like $5, and we bought home like about 20 to 25 games
Nice,
for our NES.
nice.
So. But I think that's going to be it for this episode of Standard Definition. Right now, we are going to do a ranking, but right now, the NES is in the #1 spot.
Yeah.
Uh,
So for those of you who have listened to our MCU or our Disney or Indiana Jones series, we're gonna take this approach with Nintendo consoles. Whether it's I don't know, are we gonna do handheld in this list too, or are we gonna do handheld and because I think we should do the consoles like consoles and handhelds in order. But like so like the next time we do this, I think we should do the Game Boy. But
yeah, we can.
I think maybe we should. Do you want to keep the rankings separate, or do you want to keep them together? I think it'd be interesting if we did them together.
That's what I was about to say. Keep them together, because I think there are some great handhelds and there are some great consoles, and to battle it out, because man, like how do you battle the GameCube versus the Game Boy Advance? Like,
yeah, I mean that's that's gonna be hard.
Yeah, because
also it's gonna get kind of tricky. So we should probably discuss this real quick, just to have a little extra content for you guys to listen to. So I don't think in terms of the consoles, we should include virtual console. So like the Wii and the Wii U. I don't think that should count in our kind of presentation of the console, if you will. Like when we rank it. I mean, we could talk about how important that was, but I mean, when we go to rank it, I don't think we should incorporate Virtual Console.
Right.
Even though Virtual Console was such a huge point for the Wii.
I think like Virtual Console, even the eShop stuff like that, I think those are bonus features on that console. Like they play a part for it with the software stuff, but it's not its own kind of thing.
Yeah, because I mean, when I was playing Wii semi regularly, it was the Virtual Console stuff. It wasn't like the actual Wii games. I don't even know if I own 20 Wii games, to be honest with you. But although I have to tell you a story after we're done recording.
Okay.
So, anyways, yeah, we're gonna rank them, and it's gonna be fun.
Oh goodness, the Game Boy! Like, how do we not stop talking about the Fall of the Foot Clan on there at Tetris?
Also, like, side tangent, I think I'm gonna put these episodes up on the POW Block feed. I know that this is standard definition, but I think that the Nintendo centric episodes we should put up on the POW Block feed just to have to cross promote the podcast. So it'd be also, I think our POW Block fans would really enjoy this as well.
Yes. So, and everybody, like Corey kind of mentioned earlier, Switch Online. If you guys have it, do visit some of these games that is on Switch Online for the NES. Go play it online, but if there's some 2-player, get into the rewind stuff if things are happening. Even with strategy guys, if you need to, or play the SP versions of it, that's all welcome. Like, really check out some of these classics, and if there is a collection like the Castlevania and Contra collection, they have those NES ports on there and the Japanese and European versions, so you get more content to learning why that system was a big thing when it came out. So, Corey, where can we find you?
You can find me at I am Corey HD on Twitter and Instagram. You can also find me co-hosting Nintendo POW Block. You can find me hosting the Boss Rush podcast and various other things here on the Boss Rush Network.
Yes, you guys can find me on Twitter at that retro code. You can find me hosting Nintendo POW Block, Expansion Pass, and other content here on Boss Rush Network. With that, everybody, come join us on the Discord. Let us know your memories of the NES, or if you didn't have one and are planning on through some more Switch Online or other ways, I should say. We want to hear what you guys thought about these games, and do they still, some of them hold up? Were something terrible? Do you have some of the boxes, like for the box art and stuff? We would really love to know. So with that, everybody, have a great week, have a great weekend, and we will see you next time on Study the Definition to talking about the Nintendo Game Boy. Get ready for that one. Bye, everybody.
Oh my gosh, that episode's going to be like 3 hours long.
Right.